Hello everyone, welcome to Car Audio Stories. Today we are taking a special trip to see an amazing car, an amazing person, and most of all, an amazing install. You'll probably hear me say amazing a lot on this channel, but believe me, you will see a lot of amazing cars on this channel. Today we are going to see Tony and his X3. We will hear about his car audio story, and we'll also have a look around at his car and also what he has planned for the future. And also you'll be able to find out where you can hear this car and where you can see it. Stay tuned, guys. Hello everyone, welcome to Car Audio Stories. Today we have Tony with us, who is a car audio fanatic. He's just going to share his story with us on how he got started and his journey till now. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you, Adrian.
All right, let's hear your story.
Well,
introduce yourself. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Tony. Obviously I compete in car audio, but the journey began back in the 90s, really. I started off doing basically an Astra, Vauxhall Astra SRI. Decided to do something a bit weird and basically decided to put scale electrics in the boot, which was a bit weird and wonderful. It was a bit of a mission. At the time I was using, going back in the day, Genesis amps, so I had a couple of those, some Kenwood speakers and that, and just decided to start showing it off a little bit. And then basically I had my firstborn, and then car audio sort of disappeared for the best part of 20 odd years. To me, I was in on the indoor stuff, and went back into car audio again and sort of got myself a Ford Orion, and then decided to, what can I do with that? And then my son said, why don't you do what you did once before? So that's what I did. I'd end up putting scale electrics in the boot of that, and the journey began from there, really, to go into real car audio. That was when I met Peter from PS Sound, and asked him if he could have a listen to it, wanted his honest opinion, which he did within 10 seconds, and said it was absolute shit. So, excuse my French, but it was quite funny at the time. But as I say, listening to his Honda, which we all know is something else, which then sort of grabbed me. And then I went to see him, got a little tune on that, and then thought, right, I really need to get into this. So then decided to sell that car and got myself a Focus ST500, and decided, right, I want something to compete with. Spoke with Peter, took the car to him, and then basically said, free range, you do what you want, which he did. Competed in 2023. I came second in the UK, and then, but I still managed to qualify for Euro finals, which I took that to the Euro finals, and that came fifth overall, which I was quite happy with. But I knew that there was things that needed doing, and really I needed to go and change the car. So that's why I decided to change cars, and then I went for the X3, and again spoke with Peter and Eddie and said, right, let's build something that's going to be completely different, which, yeah, this is completely different.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean? And obviously on the journey is meeting so many people, so many people like yourself, you know what I mean? Peter's meets in Brighton, and then, you know, made so many friends, you know what I mean, over the course of,
because I met you just after you got rid of the Orion. So in the Orion Focus stage, and what made you want to put a scale electric in the car?
I think because when I'd done it in the 90s, no one had done anything like that. So it was a really unusual sort of thing. You know, I mean, you see things in America that people were doing things like fish tanks and things like that. And then decided, how fun would it be to put scale electrics in the boot of a car? You know what I mean? And having it run. And literally I went to, it would have been the very first Max Power reunion show, which I showed it, and Jason see it there. And that just, it got kids' eyes going like anything. You know what I mean? Kids absolutely loved it. You know what I mean? And my kids loved it as well. You know what I mean? So it was just something, it was like, it was just a bit of a passion to do that. You know what I mean? It was just something very unusual. Then decided to say, then build it, and then I took it apart and then built it on a bigger scale, and then obviously had the boot open with, so that obviously I had a load of Steg speakers in the back. So it was blasting like crazy, you know what I mean? So it was just a fun car, you know what I mean? But then I wanted to, obviously once I met everybody at Brighton and things like that, and then I thought, well, I want to go to the next level. I want to compete. I want to go to, I want to get serious with it now. Once I'd heard certain cars and you go, wow, this is on another level now, and just, you know, and just go from there, which is what I did. So yeah, and then the journey's gone on and on and on.
So how would you say in terms of what you think a good system is, how do you think it has changed from now to, let's say, when you just got started?
Oh, wow. In all fairness, I didn't really understand the whole EQ side of things, you know what I mean? And the setups and the tuning, which threw me completely. You know what I mean? Back in the day, you know what I mean? Yes, we done things with the amount of money we had. You still see the bigger guys that were using EQs and things like that, Phoenix Gold and things like that. Nowadays, you see people with Helix and Zatco and, you know, Goldhorn, all these different, you know what I mean, these things, and Brax, you know what I mean? And it's just like, I can't believe how things can change and how you can have a soundstage sound so well. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. And then to be introduced to it with certain cars, you can get in one car, listen to it, you go, oh my God, you know what I mean? This blows you away. Something else blows you, the same as like sealed enclosures and IB, you know what I mean? It's just, wow, you know, it throws you every time. Definitely. It really does. You know, it's just, I mean, I love my car. It's just, it couldn't be IB because there's just certain things on the car, but I still love what's been created in this car. Yeah. Your car again, you know what I mean? You're getting yours and it's, you know, it's something else, you know? It's just crazy the way things have changed along the way, and you just learn. Yeah, definitely. Continually learning different things along the way.
I think where we're similar is like what I got started, and I mean my very first install would have been, I took the speakers out of my room, I shoved them in the boot, connected them up, and for about 2 weeks I was on top of
when I think back, you saying that, I think I remember back, I had an old Datsun Sunny, Nissan Sunny, and I had a pair of home audio speakers in the boot, but great big ones, running off an audio line head unit with a little graphic on it, you know, and it's just like, you know what I mean, you're just turning it full crank, you know what I mean? You just done the sliders to a point that it wasn't distorted, but it was enough bass, and you know what I mean, that you could hear it, and it was just so funny to listen to. When I go back, that was probably my first biggest system, but it was running off a head unit, you know what I mean? It's just like, but then like you say, once you learn certain bits and then you go to shows and things like that, but 20 years down the line, and you see things and how it's done and how it's made, and you know, it's crazy now. It really is, you know, it's just on another level, you know, and just the way things sound. You know? It's definitely, and you know, we're going to go through a walk around of the car after, but just in terms of this car, how has let's say, how has competition and listening to other cars, how much of it has influenced what you have done to this car? I think going back to when I competed with the ST, I knew there was limitations with the car, because originally we wanted to put the mids on the dash, but once Pete and Eddie took the dash out on that, there was a crash bar, so it was impossible to do. So that sort of threw everything out. And then, like Peter Liddy said, you know, to go that one step further, you really need to do the doors for the mid bass. And then I was like, well, in all fairness, the car's got its limitations. I wanted to get a different car anyway. I spoke to a couple of people at the Euro finals, and I know Mercedes is obviously normally, like Pete says, is your top car for the mid bass. You know what I mean, up front. Then a few people have said like BMW sort of second. You know what I mean, going down the line. And that's like, okay. I had the 8 Series at the time, and then I decided, right, okay, this car's nice, but the doors are too bloody long. So every time I parked in the car and tried to get out of the car and someone parked next to you, it was just near impossible. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to change cars. I'm going to go for something that I don't mind if they have to cut the dash, then they cut the dash, and I'll buy this, and this will be the car that I'm going to compete in, and they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
You know, there was no limitations on it. It was just do what you need to do. If you have to cut the dash, then cut it. You know, a lot of people say, what? You're not going to let, you know, yeah, no, that's, I wanted the car for this reason.
Yes.
It's my daily, the thing is with the ST, when I go back to the ST, the car was lovely, don't get me wrong, it was mint in every way possible, but it only ever come out for competitions and maybe, you know, a show now and then, you know, so I wasn't using it as a daily. I'd only enjoy it, you know, maybe 6-12 times a year.
Yeah.
And it was a waste of time. So it was like, let's get a daily that I can use every day and, you know, enjoy the music as well.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought, right, okay, let's get something that I know is practical. I can chuck things in the back, you know what I mean? We can go out, whatever. And it's just a nice, comfy car to drive, you know? So I was like, if I compete in this, I'll go to Austria and I'm going to have a nice drive and it's not going to cost half as much in fuel and, you know, things like that.
100%. Because when I think back to when I had the smart car, and I think I was looking to get another car, but competition was in my mind. So I bought the Mercedes. And I thought, what is the smallest Mercedes that they do? Because it was always going to be a second car for me. So I want a small car. I don't need a big car. You know, it'd be great get an E-Class because, you know, everything is set up. You know, the way it's build quality, etc. But I bought a C-Class, and then doing that, I find you actually looking for a car that you can put audio in. And I don't see it any different to somebody who says, oh, I need a car that I can put a pushchair in or a pram in. Well, I want to put my car audio in it. If that's going to be your daily driver, there are the things that are important.
It's like you say, and we're at that stage where our children are that bit older now. That we don't have to worry about that. Same as when people say, oh, back shop, no, the wife's got her car. I've got this. Yes, you can't use the boot in theory, but I just throw things in the back seat. You know what I mean? It's just, it's only me and the missus or friends, whatever, or son, children, whatever. Go out, you know what I mean? So majority of the time, like you say, it's mine. It's for me. It was built for me. And I think I had this conversation with Eddie once, and he said to me, do you want the car just for competition, or do you want it for yourself? I said, well, yeah, I want it for competition, but in theory, I want it for myself. So I can use it as a daily, you know, and enjoy the music. Instead of having a car that's sitting there in storage that only comes out now and then and get to listen to it and it goes back away, you know. Whereas this, I get to enjoy it every day.
And I like cars that are to a show standard, but if you only take it out at shows, you're not using it as a car. And that doesn't make sense to me.
It's just a pure show car.
You want to be able to use it for its purpose. Like people who buy a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, but they don't drive it because if they drive it, it will lose its value. But then what's the point of having it?
Exactly. Whereas the Orion, I used every day. I tried to use that as much as I could. People would say to me, oh, what's the mileage? I said, oh, I really don't know. I said, because I just put fuel in it and drive it. You know what I mean? It was a car that I loved to drive.
100%.
Whereas the ST was more of a show car, and then I ended up putting it away. Then you start looking at the mileage, go, oh, the mileage. And then I thought, what's the point in having it? There's no point. You know what I mean? So that's why I competed in that, and I thought, right. And it was literally sold within a week. Coming back from...
It's a unique car. And, you know, rightly, wrongly, stupidly, when I buy a car, the last thought in my head is, how much am I going to get when I sell it? I I never take that into consideration. I just use it as much as I can until it gets to a point where it's either too old or it needs stuff done to it. And then I worry about it then. So when it comes to cutting the dash or cutting the door or cutting the floor, I'm really not bothered about it. People say, oh no, I don't want anything cut. And that's fine, because that's up to them. But for me, it was a case of, let's do it. Let's not no compromise, because then you do stuff really crazy. But keep it as a car. But like, I don't use the boot. If the dash is cut, let's cut the dash. If we cut the doors, let's cut the doors, because chances are when you come to sell it, those parts will be cheap anyway, and then you can just swap it for second-hand parts.
Or like you say, or with the same as this in here. I mean, if I sold it, or if someone wanted to buy it with the equipment in, it's going to be, you know, negotiation, whatever. You know what I mean? It's just, it is what it is. You know what I mean? But that was the whole idea. It's an everyday car that I can enjoy it and compete with. You know what I mean? And then obviously the story goes on from there. So no, it's been a good car.
Good. Okay. So where did you come last year competing? What class was you in, and where did you come?
On this one, this was entry unlimited. And I became vice champion, so I came second. Which was a very big shock. When it got down to top 3, it was just like, I think that was when a penny dropped, and it was like, oh my God, I'm actually going to get a trophy now. You know what I mean? It's just like suddenly, and I'm watching the wife and Peter and everyone else that's sitting there, and Mark and the kids, and they're all like, you know, come on, like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, okay. And then when they announced the 3rd place, it's like, wow. You know what I mean? That's when it suddenly hit. Jesus.
You're thinking, could it be? Could it be? Could it be?
You know what I mean? But in all fairness, I think I didn't mind then, you know, where I'd come. It was just like, wow. And then obviously they obviously, you know, 1st and 2nd place, and then they announced obviously vice champion, and then it was me, and it was like, I'll take that. You know, I was just so over the moon, because obviously the journey I've been on, you know, and it's just a crazy journey that I've gone through to get there, and then to have the kids there and everything like that. And it weren't till I come off stage, and then that's when I broke down, because it just hit me so much then, you know what I mean? It was just like, wow, you know what I mean? And the wife was saying to me, there were so many people that did break down and cry, because the journey that I've been on myself, as you know, is just has been one hell of a journey. It's just, but to suddenly go, wow, I've got a trophy. You know, it's been worth it. The fight has been worth it.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's a journey you go on. So getting to the Euros, qualifying means you got one of the best cars in the country. Then going to the Euros, you're like, okay, you're competing with
the best of the best,
of the best from all the countries in Europe. And then when you do get called out, you're like, oh my gosh, I've done it. It's like, you know, you spent the whole year focusing on that. You know?
As I say, you know, okay, it would be nice if everyone would be like, oh yeah, I wish I'd have got first, but I was happy. You know, I was so chuffed to get that. You know what I mean? I was just over the moon. You know what I mean? It was just, I'd got there. I'd got to Salzburg. That was my fight. I got there, and then that little bit of journey of going through competition. Then once we were there, it was just like, then suddenly you're like on stage, like, wow, I've got second. I'll take that all day long. You know, you know, I weren't to the point of going, oh, I wish I'd have got first and things like. No, I am so over the moon with, you know what I mean, with what I got. You know, and the journey's been, you know, a hard journey, but at the same time, it's been a fun journey. You know,
definitely. When you posted the picture, I think I watched it live. Somebody was streaming it live. And I was just skipping to basically the categories that I know. I know people who are in those categories. And I saw you with the trophy, and I thought, well done, Tony.
It was.
Do you know what I mean? It was a hard fight, but you know, you got there, and it wasn't even just a car audio fight, but you know, a real life fight. So you know, it was good. So Would you want to go back again?
I've got it in my head this year that, because I go up category now, because obviously I'm in skilled now.
Yeah.
So
I was in entry before,
yes,
wasn't you?
yes, yeah.
Okay,
so I now go to skilled
Yeah.
unlimited now. So my goal, I think, this year is just to try and do every round on the UK.
Yeah.
For as long as I can do it. You know what I mean? That's the journey. So if it goes beyond that,
it does.
you know what I mean, then happy days. You know what I mean? But at the moment, I'm looking forward to, we've got round one next week.
Saturday.
Yeah, next Saturday. So I'm looking forward to going to that. Then again, it's not just that, it's everybody that you meet along the way. You know what I mean? The people that you're meeting that might not be in your class, but in other class as well, but you become a good family of friends, you know what I mean? And you have a laugh, and I mean, we're like kids, you know what I mean? We have such a laugh, you know?
Yeah.
And the thing is, the way I look at it is that I want to just be able to do what I can, how I can, you know what I mean? And have fun doing it at the same time. And then the people that we've met along the way, we can have a laugh as well. Me and you, we've sat there, we've had conversations about loads of stuff, haven't we? You know what I mean? Of life and things.
That's
you know?
it. You really make everybody. It has something in common, which is cars and audio. Yeah. But you make friends.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Even at the Euros, you make friends from all different countries.
Yes.
That you would have never have spoken to them.
No.
Do you know what I mean? You take numbers. You message them.
Yeah. A lot of guys from Finland. Obviously found out what was wrong with me and blah, blah, blah. And they were so supportive. You know what I mean? They come up to me afterwards, thanking me and nice to see you and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It was just, it's like you say, there's just so many people that you meet on the journey. Yeah. And then when you get out there as well, as you know, and then there's, other people from different countries. There's a guy from Italy that I'd met when I was on the Steg stand a year before. And, he couldn't believe to see me, you know what I mean? He was so happy to see me, even though he was using Google Translate, you know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Me being lazy, not knowing Italian, and him not knowing just a tiny bit of English, but bless him, you know what I mean? He was so happy to see me again, you know what I mean? And, it was, just really good seeing other people again, because then there were certain people that were in your categories that you remember from the year before, and they'd come and say hello, and then they want to see your car, what you've got this year, and you know what I mean? So it's such a good community to be in, I think, you know what I mean? It really is. Everyone's so friendly. Everyone wants to help if you've got a problem, or you know what I mean. Everyone's got their little bit, you know what I mean. They'll try and help if they can, and it's just
it is like that, because even sometimes you say to someone, "Oh, can I listen to your car?" and they'll just go, "Oh, just go ahead. You know what you're doing." Like they just leave you to it, and you're not going to abuse anything or mistreat anything, but you have that. You get to know people. You have that trust, and you just say, "Yeah, go ahead." You know what to do.
It is like you say, it's that community of people that just sort of come together, and you can have such a laugh with them, you know what I mean? You might not see them for another 3-4 weeks till the next competition, and it's like an old friend that you haven't seen for a bit, and then you're like, "Oh, how you doing, blah, blah, what you been doing, blah, blah, oh, this is happening now," and then jump in the car, and you'll be sitting there like we are, having a conversation about life, about nothing, you know what I mean, and just talk shit, and you know what I mean, and have a laugh with it, it's just really, 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 really good community of people, everybody, you know what I mean?
It's a good journey.
Yeah, it really is.
And then you find that although you're a rival with somebody in your class, but it's a friendly rival. There's no oh, I'm not going to show you this, or I'm not going to show, no, go ahead, because we're here now, innit? You can't change anything. So
no, exactly. No, that's what I say.
And you always want feedback from other people as well.
I find that I always find that good. Is getting feedback, and it's saying I would listen to the judges as well, and what they would say and things like. And I'll take on board what they're saying. You know what I mean, and things like that.
Yeah.
You're not always going to agree with everything that anyone's going to say, but it's nice to take on board and go, okay, what about that? And then you go away and you listen to it, or you sort of think, oh, okay, all right, there's this or there's that. And you take things on board, but no one's having a go at you. They're just giving you their bit of advice. Everyone's got their little pennyworth of whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, that's nice because no one's slaughtering somebody. They're just, oh, I think this, or I feel, oh, I like that. You know what I mean?
And you can take it or leave it, really, can't
exactly.
you?
And the thing is, like you say, you could get in 10, 20 cars, and everybody would have something different in their car. So it's hard sometimes just to go, I like that one car. Yeah. Because there's always a little something in one car that you go, oh, I like that in that one. Oh, I like that in that one. You know, and you get... Or
you can hear, sometimes you can hear pretty much the same equipment or very similar equipment in a different car, and it sounds totally different.
Yes.
Doesn't sound worse or better. Yeah. It just sounds different.
Different, yes.
And that's sometimes the acoustics of the actual car.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and so so your tweets and mid-range, you go into another car and you hear the same tweet as a mid-range and it sounds a little bit different.
Yeah.
Or the bass sounds a bit different. Not any worse or better, but just just different.
Yeah.
You know, so it's there is that aspect to it, which is why I always say to people that you can't just judge a car by the equipment.
No.
You know, because one thing I've learned is tuning is so important.
Oh God, yes.
It is. Yeah. It is. You know, you can put great equipment in a car.
Yeah. Not
installed correctly, not tuned properly, and it sounds worse than if you just left it alone.
Yes. Yeah. Well, stay going back to say when I first met Pete and I was saying that Honda and I was like, wow. Yeah. You know, and you just suddenly go, this is just a different level. You know, it's just you know what I mean, and you just suddenly sort of think, wow, how can it actually come from them speakers, and how can that actually come to that level where it's sitting in pinpoint in the middle, and you know you're hearing those vocals, and you're like, wow, you know what I mean? It's
how can it sound like it's coming from outside of the car?
Yeah,
but I can see the speakers are right there.
Yeah. I mean, I've had people sitting there and they go, the hell, you know what I mean? It just it throws them. You know what I mean? It's just like, especially people that are not into audio, you know, like in cars. You know what I mean? And they'll sort of go, oh, you know, oh, is it a bass? You go, no. It's just, you just sit there and I'll play you a few tracks and then you tell me. And they're sitting there and then they're like, some people go, God, you know, the hairs on my arms are sticking up and, you know, things like that. And it does throw people, you know what I mean? And then when you get in it yourself again and you're going home and even you get that satisfaction, you go, oh, I'm so happy with this. You know what I mean? It's, you know.
I think for me, it's like if I drive the family car for 3-4 days in a row, and then I get in the Mini and I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds so good.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you just enjoy it and you crank it up and you're just enjoying it. And, you know, the next few days is back to the family car and you're just listening to basic radio or something. And it's just, do you know what I mean? Just that enjoyment of getting in and listening, or, you know, just getting in your car and just listening to it.
Yeah.
And not even driving anywhere, just having that, you know, just, you know, having your own time and just listening to it.
It's that thing, isn't it? Like you say, you might be trying to find tracks and you go, oh, I know what that sounds like.
Yeah.
And then what you do, you go and sit in the car.
Yeah.
And you put it on and you go, oh, that does sound good. And then you're trying to find other tracks then to make a new playlist. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? I'm constantly doing it. You know what I mean? I'm sort of going, oh, I won't be a minute, babe. I'm just popping out to the car.
Yeah.
She knows what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So it's just like, you know, I'm you know what I mean? I'm sitting out in the car like an idiot. You know what I mean? Sitting there listening to different tracks, listening to music and, you know what I mean? And things. And then you sort of see, oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
Oh, what's another one from that artist?
Yeah.
Oh, that's, you know what I mean? And
and I find that one of the things for me is your music library expands.
Yes, massively.
Listening to different tracks in cars and, you know, having demos.
Yep.
You listen to genres that you've never really been interested in or listened to.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? You're like, okay.
I've never been a jazz person, ever. But then I'll suddenly find a certain track and I'm listening to jazz and I'll be going, I don't normally listen to something like this, but I'm liking it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like
you've got a system that can deliver it well.
Yeah.
My uncle loves jazz.
Yeah.
I never really been into jazz.
No,
I listen to tracks and I'm like, okay.
But it's when you hear, like you say, you might hear a saxophone or a trumpet coming and you suddenly go, oh, that sounds nice. You know what I mean? That's like, and you suddenly go, oh, I like that. I'll put that in my playlist.
Yeah.
You know, something that you would never ever think of dreaming of putting in your playlist.
Yeah.
You know, I've always been, me personally, I've always been to house music and stuff like that.
Yes.
Techno sort of house.
Yeah, I like dance music.
You know what I mean? All stuff like that. And suddenly your playlist is you might have that, but then you've got something else with just pure SQ cars. So you've got some singer sitting there and you're like, oh, that sounds so nice. You know? It's just weird. And you're listening to someone playing a guitar and you're hearing the strings and, you know, things like that. And you're like, I really like this. You know, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
But
it is such a journey.
Yeah, it has been a superb journey. You know what I mean? It's been crazy. But at the same time, it's been a hard journey, but a good journey.
Yeah.
You know, it's just to say, because you're learning on the way.
Yeah.
And the things that you're always doing as well is you're constantly learning new things. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? So 1 minute you're into this and then the next minute you're into that and you go, oh, I like that in that car. Wonder what that would sound like in my car. You know, you know what I mean? So it's going in the rabbit hole. Yeah. Once you've got your foot in the rabbit hole, that's it. And as I say, even my son now, you know, he suddenly sat there one day and he went, I actually get it now. I really do get it. And then he decided to have his car done. Yeah. And now he's like, oh, I think I need a front sub. And you're like, really? And he's saying, yeah, I think I need that now. Yeah. I said, see, I told you. I said, once you're in this rabbit hole, you won't stop. You'll just keep going, you know? It's just, so yeah, so I'm really chuffed that he's into it as well, you know? So
now you mentioned the rabbit hole, that leads me to two questions.
Yep.
The first question is the car finished?
I'd like to say yes, but I think the only thing I think I've ever missed that I personally do like, but I know it would have to have such a major change at the back end, would be IB. Yeah. That is the only thing, because obviously the way the car's designed and things like that, you would have to have done so much fabrication work done to the exhaust and everything else for it to breathe underneath and things like that, or even at the sides, you know what I mean? I think the front I'm really happy with. Yeah. You know what I mean? I love the front end. I really do like it. It was like night and day when I come from the Focus to this, you know what I mean? Now that obviously the mids are now on the dash, it just brings it up so much more. Obviously I had a sealed enclosure in the ST. I've got a sealed enclosure in this one as well, but obviously now I've got two 12s in here. But I think if there was anything that had to be changed, it would be to go IB. Yeah. I think that would be the only thing that I'd really want to change. So because I love the front end of this, you know what I mean? I'll sit there in awe of it sometimes. I mean, even sit there sometimes, I don't even have the subs on. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because the front end is so well done.
It's got that clarity.
Yes. Yeah. And it's got that drive, it's got that punch at the front, which is so nice. You know what I mean? Obviously, I know they'll bring the rears, bring it in, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think that would be the only thing I'd change would be, literally would be a complete refabrication of the boot. You know what I mean? And go IB. That would be the only thing that I'd change. Yeah. You know, that's what I say. I'm really chuffed with it. I really am. You know what I mean? There's just, that would be the only thing I think would be changed, would be it's going through IB. That would be my only thing that I would want to change. You know what I mean? Apart from, I say, the front end, I'm so chuffed with it. You know what I mean? The fact that I know originally when we spoke about it, Eddie and Pete said that they weren't so sure that they could do the mids on the dash. You know what I mean? It's like, we might have to cut the dash. I was like, well, I haven't got a problem with that. If you can do it, but then it's obviously, the dash has got to come out. There's loads more work involved. And then I said, okay, if you can't do it and it's got to go A-pillars, then so be it. And then out of the blue, Eddie sends me this picture of these molds on the dash. I'm like,
so we are doing it then.
So straight away, like, I'm getting excited now, knowing that it's going to. And then obviously once I got the car and Pete tuned it, I was just sat there and I was like, oh my God. Yeah. It's just completely different to how the ST was. And it's just on another level. Yeah. And then obviously to go to the finals with it, and then where it's come in the finals, then I have to sit back and go, yeah, it's the second best in Europe. Yeah. I'll take that all day long. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm well chuffed with that. And obviously, again, there's, you know, a lot of thanks goes out to a lot of people, you know what I mean, that helped me on the journey. And obviously Pete and Eddie for the build and the tuning, and you know what I mean. You know what I mean, and it's friends as well.
Yeah,
it's the friends I think that made along the way.
Yeah, that makes a big part of it, because you couldn't really. I still wouldn't be going to competitions if it wasn't for the people.
Yes.
Because sometimes you wake up and you think, oh, you know what, maybe I knock it on the head today. But then you think, oh, you're going to see this person, you're going to see that person, and
there's new people as well that are coming along on the journey as well. You know, and so. It's like I spoke to a few of them, and then they ask questions. You just sort of try and point them in the right direction. So, like, okay, this might happen,
and they come to you as the more advanced person. And you're like, me, I'm not that advanced. I'm still learning.
I'm still learning. But you know what I mean. You try and help them out any way that you can, and give them any advice. The things that I've learned along the way that someone's given me advice. And then I've said to them, you know, maybe you should do this, or maybe you should do that, or alter this, or alter that. And, you know what I mean? And things like that. So, and then, you know, we all sit there, in all fairness, we all sit there back in awe of Pete. You know what I mean? And how he does things. And you say, how does he even do it? You know, we're all baffled by it, you know what I mean? And, but yeah, and as I say, I think a lot of it, again, is friendship that's been made along the way. You know what I mean? I've made so many friends along the way, you know what I mean? And, you know, we have a laugh, and you know what I mean, and we text, and you know what I mean, or whatever, you know what I mean? And it's just generally us not being kids again, you know, and having a laugh and having, you know what I mean, good friendship.
And that's it, because you can forget sort of, you know, work, home pressures, just for that moment, and just enjoy the car audio and the fellowship.
And we'll all have a laugh, and we'll take the mick out of each other, and you know, and we're all there for the same reason. We're all there because we're all, you know,
to enjoy it.
To enjoy it. We're all audiophiles, so
Okay, Tony, thank you for sharing your story today.
No problem.
If you want to see Tony's car or listen to his car, make sure you attend Emma events this year. Go on to Facebook, and there's Emma UK socials for more information, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Okay, Tony, just give us a little walk around of your car. Show us inside.
So we have in the front on the dash, obviously we've got the MSS3s, the Steg. So we've got those MSS3s. Then we've got the PS Sound 60s. On the dash and the tweeters. Then we've got the ML6Ps as the mid bass.
So you got freeway front.
Freeway on the front, and then on the other side, on the front end, we've got a front SB acoustics in the kit. You can see in there.
Okay. So you got an iPad on the dash, is that for multimedia?
Yeah, that's just we're normally for when I'm in competition, I use that. Or normally I stream the phone. And then obviously in the back, we have two Brax GX 240s, 2400s. We've got the Helix Ultra. And obviously the two Steg 12s.
These are big beasts, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Bet they push out some air.
Yeah, they do well actually. Yeah.
Oh, is this the vice champion?
Yes.
You see a bit of green
very
and blue
bright,
and
isn't it?
violet.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it looks good. Definitely does highlight.
And obviously the window as well. This lights up as well.
Yes.